Well, this looks like the end for Colby Covington. Looks like we're finally here. The true end to Colby, the end to his undeserving title shots, and what looks like the end to his career in the limelight in general. Last week, Colby got the break speed off of him by Joaquin Buckley, who has just got his biggest win to date and extended his 6-fight win streak, looking like a new problem for the welterweight division. As for Colby, the longtime welterweight staple looks to have basically signed his retirement with a subpar performance and is probably going to have a few fights with older fighters before he completely signs off. So of course in today's video, let's look at Colby Covington's career over the years. Let's look at how good he actually was and what led to such a quiet downfall to one of the loudest mouths in UFC history. I would imagine most fans know of the rise of Colby Covington and how he got his stardom, as there are many great videos out there explaining it, but those new to the sport, I'll briefly explain. Colby was a great collegiate wrestler, and fun fact, was the roommate of John Jones at Iowa Central Community College. This wrestling base would transfer over well into the UFC in terms of effectiveness, but didn't bode too well with fans, as it was mostly chain wrestling, lots of control time, not a lot of striking, and as a result, not a lot of finishes. Though he was winning, Colby wasn't building an audience or hype around him. And as the story goes, after Colby's win over Kim Dong-hyun, they were going to cut Colby from the roster despite him being 7-1 in the UFC because his style was boring. So after his next fight and win over Damian Maia, everything would change.
Knocked him out! Brazil, you're a dog! All you filthy animals suck!
After his biggest win to date in Maia's home crowd, he would call out Brazil and went from a relatively quiet fighter to one of the most loud and obnoxious fighters, willfully playing heel. Dana hasn't actually corroborated Colby's story, but if true, Colby's transition to heel worked extremely well, as he would obviously stay in the UFC, go on to fight Rafael dos Anjos, and then former welterweight champion Robbie Lawler, capping off a 7-fight win streak en route to an undisputed belt. But let's pause here for a quick second. So this is probably peak Colby. Super loudmouth, in the limelight, peak heel personality, ability, and career, again riding a 7-fight win streak with big name wins over former champions in Robbie Lawler and Rafael dos Anjos, and a great win over legend Damian Maia. But let's take a closer look into peak Colby. These were big names, but how old were they when they fought Colby Covington? Damian Maia was damn near 40 years old when he fought Colby. Rafael dos Anjos was 33 when he fought Colby, and finally, Robbie Lawler was 37 when he fought Colby. While during these 3 fights, Colby was in his prime at 31. We've seen that 33 seems to be the drop-off in terms of performance, and 2 of the 3 biggest wins in his career thus far were well above that age, with Rafael dos Anjos starting that drop-off with Colby. So sure, these were great wins, but none of these big names were nearly in their prime. So what happened when Colby faced top welterweight competition in their prime age? Colby would of course be introduced to the top with the first Kamaru Usman fight, and you know what, say what you want about Colby now, but he did show out in this fight. I remember everyone thinking this was going to be a boring decision because both guys had a reputation of having a very wrestling heavy approach to most of their fights that usually led to a decision, but not this one. These 2 wrestlers decided to say, fuck it, let's just box and go to war the entire fight, and it made for personally one of my favorite fights ever, probably top 15 for me. Colby, with his amazing cardio, would press the action and actually look like he hurt Kamaru a couple times, to where it even looked like Kamaru had to fake a nut shot to get rest. I'm not saying Colby would have won this fight had it gone to decision, but he did take a couple rounds from Usman, and me personally, I had it tied into the 5th. But whatever success Colby had in this fight would be washed away, as Kamaru would pull away with the boxing, find a giant right hand late in this fight that would drop Colby, and then another to send him to the floor again to finish him by punches. You know, despite Colby getting finished, he showed insane heart and even got his jaw broken in the middle of the fight and continued to fight extremely competitively. This is definitely peak Colby Covington, and probably the last time the UFC fan base as a whole had pretty good respect for him. Colby would bounce back with a win over former champion Tyron Woodley, and it was classic Colby. Relentless pressure, non-stop boxing and takedowns, and looked fresh even after the fight. He did get the finish in a weird way. Tyron got taken down and started screaming about his rib as it got broken, so not necessarily a highlight finish, but a good performance and a finish nonetheless, and it wouldn't be classic Colby if his opponent wasn't 38 years old. This would lead to another title shot and another chance for Colby to win over Kamaru. But of course, he ran into peak Kamaru. By this time, Kamaru had ran through Jorge Masvidal twice brutally in the second and took out Gilbert Burns in the process as well, showing that he has well surpassed Colby from the first time they fought. But still, Colby showed signs of great boxing and even looked like he wobbled Kamaru at the end of the 4th, making this fight not necessarily a war like the first, but pretty competitive nonetheless. Colby would fight in the next year and make the grudge match with his friend turned foe, Jorge Masvidal, and though he won every round, I'm going to be honest, I don't think we remember much from this fight. All I remember is Jorge dropping Colby and Colby saying he took a knee for first responders, which is hilarious, but again, Jorge was 37 when this happened. Colby would then lay dormant until Leon became champion, and now with Kamaru out of the way, Colby shit-talked himself back into title contention and showed absolutely nothing. First of all, he tried being heel as usual and fucked up on his now infamous 7th layer of hairline, and in the actual fight he didn't show much. Sure, he did release x-rays later that showed he broke his foot in the first 30 seconds of the fight, so if that's really the case, it was really on Leon for why this fight was so boring, but still, it was another tough break for Colby, who suffered his 3rd loss in a chance for the undisputed title. And if it isn't blatantly obvious already, this has been the career cycle of Colby ever since the first Kamaru fight. Colby loses a title fight, waits a year, gets an easy win over someone really old, shit-talks his way back to a title shot, and a very undeserving title shot at that. After Colby lost his first fight with Kamaru and got a win over a washed Tyron, he had this tirade, got another title shot against Kamaru before Leon, who was on a monster 10-0 loss streak and was way more deserving of the title when Colby got his second. After Colby beat a washed Jorge, he pulled the same shit by waiting a year and a half and shit-talking his way back to a title shot with Leon, all the while Bilal was similar to Leon before on a 10-0 loss streak. And I think with Colby turning down a fight with Shavkat and ducking that monster, he hoped to start the cycle again with a win over Joaquin Buckley, but unfortunately for Colby, Joaquin isn't 40 years old and is on the rise, not the decline, and it really showed. And just like that, on a fight night card, Colby got his ass beat and has seemingly fallen out of title contention and the top for good. So of course the next question is, how will Colby be remembered? Honestly, I don't think UFC history is going to remember him all too much. Looking at his resume, it isn't as good as I thought before making this video. I always thought Colby was the elite of the elite in the welterweight division, had a pretty good resume, and someone who was always in title contention, but looking back, his resume isn't all too great. Sure, he had 3 title shots, and in one of them looked really good, but besides that, a lot of his biggest wins were against guys that were way past his prime, and he always lost bad when facing prime competition. And I think resume-wise, Colby is going to be mostly remembered for his competitive fights with Kamaru Usman, but if your resume is mostly being remembered for your competitive losses and you didn't have that many highlight finishes, I don't think that's a resume that's going to be remembered all too much. And though everyone knows who Colby is, he never stuck with the UFC fan base like a true star because of how infrequent he would fight. Instead of anticipated returns like other stars who take long layoffs, most people were like, oh shit, Colby's fighting, when Colby came back. And as for personality, as much as Colby is loud and the heel, I don't think he's going to be a personality fans are going to remember for a very long time. He never really had natural charisma and was trying to be more edgy than a natural shit talker. Chael Sonnen is someone I think has had a similar career to Colby, was primarily a wrestler and was close to getting the belt but never got over the hump, but his shit talk and charisma was so natural, and there's so many moments fans will always remember from Chael. Colby, on the other hand, just tried too hard, and fans always hate that. Look, you can be the biggest shit talker or not talk at all, but it seems like fans appreciate genuinity, and Colby was far from that. So of course, what do you guys think about Colby Covington's career at this point? Will he ever get back to title contention? Probably not. But will he ever get back to competitive welterweight fights towards the top? Also probably not, in my opinion. Though, most importantly, because we're, at the end of Colby Covington's career, how will he be remembered by UFC fans? Though anyways, thank you guys for always supporting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.